Bang. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
This is Justin and Erica from YouAreCreators, and we have a special guest, Dr. Joe Gallenberger. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very, very well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let me just let our listeners know a little background about Dr. Gallenberger. He is a clinical psychologist with over 30 years experience as a therapist. He also, in 1995, began exploring psychokinesis, which is the ability to influence matter through non-physical means. Today, Dr. Gallenberger runs several different programs. Some of the programs include Sync Creation, which is a home study course, Sync Creation Manifestation Workshops, and Las Vegas Adventure Workshops. We are extremely thrilled and excited to have Dr. Gallenberger here today. And Dr. Gallenberger, can you please just elaborate on some of the workshops and courses that you do offer?
Sure. The Inner Vegas workshop is a 3-day workshop that occurs in the casino out in Las Vegas, where we use the casino as a learning classroom to learn how to do psychokinesis, which is the ability to affect matter with our energy, doing things like bending spoons, growing seeds in your hand in 5 minutes, lighting light bulbs with your energy, not plugging them into the wall, those kind of things. And in the casino, we use it to influence the game of dice, what would come out on the dice, as well as slot machines, to give real clear and rapid feedback as we train people in terms of being able to do psychokinesis, because we find that if they can do that, they can manifest things they want in their lives much more easily and do energy healing as well. So psychokinesis is a training tool, and the casino is the classroom during that workshop. The Sync Creation Home Study and Sync Creation Workshop expand that to the other type of tasks I mentioned that are PK tasks, such as growing seeds and lighting light bulbs, but also having healing circles where we send energy to people to heal body, mind, and spirit. Lots of meditation in both of these workshops using binaural beat technology called HemiSync that easily creates a whole brain learning state and helps people move into their hearts, which is where this energy is most strong.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. So what is the manifestation process, and how can we do it?
Well, to manifest, we're saying we would like to bring into our reality something we'd like to create. And the how that it goes best, many of us do it naturally, but not with much control. When you're doing it consciously, you work to consciously clear away limits, such as thoughts like I'm not deserving, or that this is going to be difficult, no pain, no gain, any kind of thought like that, washing those away, emotions away that would be negative or limiting, and then generating the highest of heart energy and having something that's really in your heart's desire to create. Then focusing your intent in special ways and letting go, and that's an important part, is having to let go and trust, to really bring something into incarnation, to bring it from the non-physical realm into the physical realm. And so, of course, people can manifest more joy in their life, as well as concrete things like a new car.
Okay. So you talk about PK often. What is PK?
Well, it's a term we use shorthand for psychokinesis. Some people know it by telekinesis. And again, science has studied this quite well. And it seems like human beings, and perhaps other creatures too, have the ability, using their energy. It's not just the mind. The mind may form the intent, but then moving a great deal of spirit or heart energy through that intent to change physical matter reality in some way, such as if you had a really strong steel spoon, which you cannot bend by force, to have that become quite malleable and kind of melt in your hand and be able to twist it into a design you would like, to roll dice in patterns, so that if you wanted to roll 9 nines in a row in dice or something, you could. to affect random number generators in different experiments, including the random number generator in slot machines. So, for example, of a PK task would be, I was going to a slot machine one time, wanted to get a royal flush in hearts because the heart is the powerful energy, and I wanted to confirm that. And the third pull got my royal flush in hearts, and we know scientifically that that's only happens once in 40,000 times by chance, actually 160,000 times. So when that occurs, of course, in a casino, you get rewarded with money that, or $4,000 in that situation. But you see the proof when all those hearts, ace, king, queen, jack, and diamond appear on the screen. And so PK is quite studyable. Major universities have studied it for decades. And some of their results are in the billions and trillions to one by chance. So it's the way science studies that ability to affect matter.
So you practice this in the casinos, correct?
Yes. Among other places, sure.
Wow. So how much have you actually won? I mean, what is the most you've actually won at one time?
Well, when we do the workshops, and for myself in general, I'm going with the money not really being the point. Again, this is a training device, so we bet small amounts of money. What some people have won, I wouldn't let you know what they won because it's private. But we've had folks using these kind of techniques, win lotteries, myself personally, on dice rolls and slot machines. I mentioned one to you before, we won 4,000. That's about a year or two ago. I just got back yesterday from a Vegas adventure workshop. And
really?
The night before we left, I went to the slot machine, hit another one of those royal flushes that are 40,000 to win by chance for over 4,000. And then couldn't sleep. I was too excited. I went back down to the casino and in about 4 rolls hit 2 4-of-a-kind threes for 400 apiece. So it was a $5,000 night with not too many minutes of play. That would be an example.
When did you realize that you can actually manipulate matter?
Well, I've been to a place called Monroe Institute. It's up in Virginia, and it's a wonderful place to learn how to expand and control your consciousness. And within that, because I liked it so much, I became a trainer. I've been a trainer there 22 years or more. And in that context, I helped Bob Monroe develop some programs. And in one of the programs, we were playing with this kind of energy. I'd already had the experience of being able to put my hand on somebody's shoulder and their headache to go away when they wanted it to go away. But from a science point of view, that's kind of messy. You don't know if it had gone away anyway. You did it, they did it, what have you. But I found that same energy, wide open heart, feeling very grounded to the earth, yet expanded into the awareness of spirit, heart wide open, hands real warm, was able to roll dice in patterns like if I wanted to roll 7 sevens in a row. And that intrigued me because as a scientist that can be studied. We know statistically what should happen on the dice by random chance. So from there, I went to a major university and did some psychokinesis experiments as a subject. Things like height of a fountain bubbles by random hydrodynamic law. It keeps changing column height, lower, higher. And you're supposed to make it high for 15 minutes, low for 15, leave it alone for 15 for control. And I got effects there that were almost unheard of by chance. And then, as I mentioned, these random number generators, an experiment with that was 30,000 won by chance, where basically a random number generator makes decisions thousands of times a second, like head, tail, coin flip, and it should come out 50-50. And so a computer picks a pixel from one picture, let's say a pyramid, if it's a 1, and it picks a pixel from the other picture, let's say a kitty cat, if it's a 0. And then you think with your mind and send energy and think, here, kitty, 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 and you get the whole picture of the cat to show up. Meanwhile, you're affecting that random number generator. That was the one at 30,000 to 1. So I left there knowing as a scientist that this stuff is real, both from what I personally experienced as well as reviewing their literature on these very large experiments with 12 million trials and many people. So that's how I got started. And then I was looking for a place to practice and get kind of a black belt in PK, if you will. And the casinos of Las Vegas were ideal because we know the dice and the slots are neutral. They're watched very carefully by the gaming commission so nobody gets cheated. And so that became the classroom for me personally. And as I did that and had good results, I saw manifestation in my life take off, and also energy healing kinds of things really increased. So I thought it was very positive for people, and that's when I started doing Vegas Adventures. We've done 70 of those now over the last 15 years, and people report all kinds of manifestation. Folks have woke up the second day of the workshop free from post-polio syndrome after 20 years of pain. Many things in this healing manifesting in PK area. Thank you.
So, Dr. Gallenberger, you briefly mentioned a little earlier about the bending of the spoon. Can you explain to us how that actually works?
Can't explain it fully because we're not sure.
Okay.
With the people in the psychokinesis literature, when they look at this, they begin to rely on quantum physics theory as a way to explain it because Newtonian physics would not. What we do see is if you're holding it, so you know it's not a sleight of hand magician trick, and you've bought the silverware, so you know how heavy it is, and you've tried to apply a force and it doesn't move, that as you're holding it in a psychokinetic state, it begins to feel warm or oily, and then it begins to soften, and you're able to bend it into different shapes. I've had a metallurgist look at some of the stuff we've bent, and they say it's physically impossible without heating it to 10,000 degrees and applying a lot of force because of the way the molecule chain is, it would just snap. It would be too brittle to bend into these shapes. We know that, and now I'm working with another university. They're in pilot study form, so I'm not free to release the name yet. And they are developing machines that can actually begin to measure the energy that gets sent when one is bending metal or sending energy healing or the kinds of PK tasks we do. They're seeing the monitors on these machines begin to jump. They don't know what the energy is, though. They just have worked these machines to the place where they know it's not electromechanical, it's not magnetic, it's not electrical. They're ruling out every kind of physical energy we know about, and yet the machines still respond. So it looks like energy is being used. It's not just a mental thing. And it's very intriguing to them. Initially they thought, well, with metal bending, maybe it was because of the crystalline form. Metal is a crystal. But we showed them a plastic fork like you take on a picnic, and they're real brittle. They just snap. And we had one all bent and twisted, and they said, oh, gee, now we don't know what's going on.
Okay. Wow. So you actually teach people how to bend spoons.
Yes, that's part of the Sync Creation Home Study. It's SYNCCreation Home Study course and the Sync Creation workshops. Also a workshop called MC Squared I developed for Monroe Institute. And in those programs, as we have a group, and remember, we've meditated for 3 days or so, we've really raised energy, we've cleared our limiting beliefs, but with proper preparation, we often get near 100% of the group being able to do this, each holding their own spoon or fork.
100%.
I say near 100%. Some groups are 100%, some maybe one person out of 25 can't do it. But usually folks are able to do it. And it's funny with that task, there was a fella, Jack Hawk, who would do spoon bending parties with 300 people. And what he found, and I find it to be true, is kids can do it more easily than adults.
Really?
Because they believe. And their energy, is not so encumbered by a certain kind of looking like an adult that we all put on. I also find women are often easier to do it than men because they're able to let go easier. Men are holding it and going, is it bending? Is it bending? Am I doing it? Once men get over their blocks, then they can bend powerfully as well. But often we see kids and then little old ladies first, and then other folks. So it's not associated with physical strength.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So if we gather enough people with the same intention and focus, could we actually affect the weather?
That's an interesting question, Erica. I think one study I know was that there was a rumor or a myth, I guess you'd call it, that the weather at Princeton University was exceptionally good on graduation day. So they did a study and they measured weather in 5 towns that were surrounding, not real close, but surrounding Princeton. Over the many, many years Princeton's had graduations and that they had weather records. And they found the weather on all the 5 surrounding towns was random, rainy, cloudy, sunny. And the Princeton weather was statistically better and sunny on graduation day. Sometimes folks will gather in large groups and pray for a hurricane to turn back out into the ocean so it won't harm people, etc. Those I don't know of any scientific study, but the one on the Princeton weather does stand out that would say, it would suggest, yes, we could even affect things like the weather.
Okay. So what are some of the most extraordinary things you've seen in regards to the power of thought?
Well, again, I'm going to modify power of thought, meaning thought is the creator of intention, but we're bringing in larger energy, probably our whole being as spirit and the power of our wide open hearts. But framing the question that way, of course, over all these years now, I've seen so many amazing casino wins, people guessing the right number in roulette 6 times in a row, which is 1.6 billion to 1 by chance, really? Things like that. We had a fellow whose family are farmers go out and be able to raise the nitrogen content in his fields, which has an amazing implication if the world could be not need to use the nitrogen fertilizer. There's been reports of groups clearing lakes of pollution. Personally, I've seen people come, say, through the Inner Vegas Adventure Workshop, and then a struggling artist all of a sudden get lots of art commissions with major universities for big bronze work, people finding soulmates, people healing many, many different kinds of physical conditions, businesses taking off where they had been floundering, inventors getting filled with new inventions to do. One I like a lot is a lady emailed me. I have a CD called Liquid Luck that summarizes all this into a half-hour meditation. And she listened to Liquid Luck, and she wrote me saying she'd been looking for a 4-leaf clover on 3 continents for 70 years and never found one. The day after listening to Liquid Luck, she found one while she heard her mom singing, "I'm looking over a 4-leaf clover that I overlooked before." We've had people whose houses were on the market languishing for months sell their house within an hour after listening to Liquid Luck. Lots of signs of meditation energy flowing.
Okay. So how important is belief when trying to manifest things?
I'd say very much.
Okay.
In many ways. Most of us are kind of limited in our belief, and we might know some of our limits, like everything good happens to other people, not me. We might have thoughts like I mentioned, no pain, no gain, nothing good comes easy. But I'll give you an idea of the power of concept or belief. There's a fellow I knew who wanted a job and he wasn't having any luck finding it. And I said, well, what do you really want? And he thought for a minute. And he said, I'd like a job about 2 months a year in beautiful weather with pretty girls around me. And we said, well, why don't you put that out in a high meditative state? And he did, and he got a call from somebody he knew in high school not too well. It took him to lunch twice and sold him his business, which was an advertising boat on the northeastern shore of the United States. And they had a season of about 6 weeks a year, and pretty girl would drive the boat in a bikini so people would watch. And one side of the boat might be, a major soft drink, the other a restaurant. At the end of the year, he had 3 boats and a Lexus, and he was working a 2-month year. Well, if you look at this, Justin and Erica, most people, as soon as you said job 2 months a year, they'd laugh.
Right.
Your concept of job is hard, unpleasant work, 40 to 60 hours a week equals job. And that's the kind of belief that then it's very hard to even conceive out of that to manifest what your heart might really desire. So we look at beliefs there, and we also look at feelings very carefully, things like feelings of lack or scarcity, feelings of guilt, meaning I don't deserve anything, feelings of fear. Probably fear is the most powerful impediment to manifesting what you want or to do healing or PK. And it's a weird one. When I, do a workshop with spoon bending, people start with the obvious, I'm afraid I'll be the only one not able to bend the spoon. But if you ask deeper, they say, really, I'm afraid I will be able to. Because to do so changes my whole nature of reality, my whole belief system. And so in the home study course and sync creation workshops and things, we spend a lot of time on working with clearing feelings of lack and fear and opening the belief systems up to the possibilities of this person to be much more than they thought they could be.
That's very interesting. So I know a lot of listeners right now, they're probably wishing that we asked this question, right? So it's going to be about any recommendations for experiments, any in-home experiments that you can recommend that we can do in order to prove that our thoughts actually influence the physical world around us.
Well, first I would take stock of what already has happened to you. Like sometimes this can be negative. I was going through a divorce about 20 years ago, and everything in my house was breaking. The shavers, the washer and dryer, garage door opener, dishwasher. And then I realized I was in an agitated energy state, so I was sending lots of energy, and I was thinking broken home. When I changed my thought to creating a new life, half of the things repaired themselves, and the breakage stopped. So you could look already what's happened when you're thinking positive, how things go versus when you're thinking negative. If you want something with the quick feedback, like the psychokinesis tasks we've mentioned, you have to first, let go of the negative beliefs and raise your energy through meditating, listening to beautiful music, doing something that really makes your heart sing. But when on a high positive energy, one thing you can do is take distilled water, which is water that's, it tastes very flat. You can get it in the store cheaply because many people put it in their irons because it has no mineral deposit. Because it has no minerals, it tastes flat. And you can send energy to it for it to be healed and sweetened and more natural, if you will. And then go up to some friends with a blind taste test and say, taste this cup of water, the flat distilled water, taste this water that I've worked on. Just don't tell them which is which. Just make it A and B. And most people will report that the water you worked on energetically will taste sweet.
Really?
So that's one thing you can do.
That is cool.
You can get some seeds like winter wheatberry or something that you would sprout, for eating, and put some in a bowl and put some in another bowl and have one bowl control and one that you send energy to. Keep them both at the same temperature, same amount of light, but keep them apart. And don't feel sorry for the control seeds. Ask them for permission ahead of time to be part of this experiment. But to your seeds that you talk to them, send energy, pretend you're healing them, and all of that. And in a couple of days, compare the two bowls. Most people will be able to see the seeds having grown more with the energy. In the workshops, we hold seeds in our hand in 5 minutes and sometimes get root growth that's 1.5 inches long. But that's with, really strong meditation and, preparation. I don't want to give people suggestions at home that sound too easy, and if they try them, they don't work, they decide either they're no good or this is bunk. These things usually are with a lot of careful energy preparation. So I want to, make that clear. But there are things you can try at home.
Okay. So you talk about lighting a bulb using nothing but your hand.
Yeah. So there, the easiest to work with would be the circular fluorescent lights.
Okay.
And they will light with static electricity or something like that, but we've done this in the shower naked with water streaming over us in the bulb, so we know it's not static electricity when we're doing it with energy. We send energy kind of through your hand. You got to, quote, no pun intended, take yourself lightly. It's this intention to light the bulb and then letting go. And with built-up energy, the bulb will often light. Sometimes if you put it in front of your chakras, like second chakra or heart chakra, you'll get some light. It's helpful to do this in a very dark room so you can see even a faint glow. And the biggest report I had, and I did not witness it, but somebody who practiced this said, Joe, I lit a 6-pack of bulbs from across the room, and they stayed lit for a half hour.
Wow.
So there's some interesting energies there that can be done. They're filled with a noxious gas, so you want to make sure you don't drop them and break them. Aside from that, it can be a very fun thing to do. And again, one of those possibilities to show you that there's something to PK that you might want to explore. All of these things are covered in my home study course. There's exercises where you go deep in meditation, and when you're in the meditation, you're guided to bend metal or do PK tasks and things like that. But you can sure try it on your own, see what happens.
So how can we build our energy up to do something like that?
Again, from my point of view, very high energies can work that are very intense, but some of them are not positive. So intense fear can do this. The mother who lifts her car off her child is probably not physically able to do that. There's probably PK running, but we don't want to create crises like that. So if you look over time at the thing that would be most positive spiritually and psychologically for you, and the most healthy for you, body, mind, and spirit, it would be to develop very high heart energy. By that I mean feelings of lovingness, gratitude, appreciation, praise, compassion, love of self and others. Visualize these things as being good for yourself and others. And in that kind of heart flow, begin to do the kinds of projection of energy that we've mentioned. There's an organization called Heart Math that has studied the coherence of the heart, has biofeedback equipment that can tell you if your heart is coherent or not. That can be a handy thing to do. As you move into more and more coherent heart energy, they have one, for example, it's a picture of a black and white garden, and as you move into more heart energy, the garden turns color, and then unicorns show up, and all kinds of magical things happen in the picture that open your heart even further. So people are different, you know. We've had people roll dice really well in Vegas when the person next to them is just saying, what do you love? Oh, I love fishing. Tell me about your favorite fishing hole. Because it gets you out of your left brain ego into your whole brain and then into your heart energy.
Right.
So the killer of this would be performance anxiety. This is a very natural task of PK. It's like falling asleep is natural. You intend to fall asleep, and then you forget about it. You maybe think about your day, and in 20 minutes you're asleep. But if you put me, Erica, and you on TV and said to all of us, the first person to fall asleep in 20 minutes gets $1 million, we probably couldn't fall asleep, right?
Right.
Because now there's performance. So there's many things that are natural, but they're hard to do under controlled conditions, under pressure. And, you know, even talking, swallowing, you can become very self-conscious and it can be hard to talk. And so you're trying to get rid of all of that and have a real nice flow of energy. So anything that gets you, you know, we've had people roll dice well thinking about their favorite pet. One fellow bent his spoon. He was having no luck. It was a fork, actually. It was a very tough fork with very hard tines, and he wanted to twist them around, having no luck until he remembered how much his dog liked to be massaged between the toes. And he began to pretend the fork was his dog's foot. massage it between the toes, if you will, and then the tine's bent. Does that give you an idea?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So if you bring all your friends over and you say, I'm hot stuff, I'm going to do this bending right in front of you, you're probably going to fail, you know, because you're in ego and you're worried about being laughed at and all of that.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Gallenberger, can we actually heal other people using the power of our minds? And if so, does distance become a factor?
Okay, again, I'm going to take issue with that power of our minds. I think the mind would set the intent to be healing. The mind might say, I'm willing to be a conduit for highest and finest energy. And then the mind has to get out of the way and let energy flow through the heart, through your highest of spirit. That said, when that happens, we've seen amazingly powerful healings. They're not 100%. Healing is, you know, illness is a sacred thing. Some people say, you know, the purpose of prayer is to heal illness, but you can also look at it as the purpose of illness is to initiate prayer. My mom had Alzheimer's. You know, it was the very thing she didn't want. She ended up in a rest home for 2 years. And you look at that, and I would love to have healed her. When she passed to the other side and I asked her about it, she said, Joe, I couldn't figure out another way to get rid of all my religious guilt. And my dad and her had been married 64 years. It gave him time to learn how to cook and clean and take care of himself because he was old school, learned how to make new friends. And she described this whole journey in the Alzheimer's that was positive. So from her perspective, the Alzheimer's was the way she needed to go to do certain things. So if we send healing to someone, it may help them transition more quickly. It may make the headache go away, and it may do not anything we can see apparently, because it depends on their relationship with that illness and its purpose. Does that make sense?
It does.
And in terms of distance, though, we found distance doesn't matter unless you believe it to matter. Right. In the psychokinesis area, the Russians studied it and felt like the psychokinesis field started fading about 4 feet away. Americans didn't believe that, and they found that it was unlimited. You could do it, you know, from across the world. I had somebody go down to Antarctica, which is pretty far away from Vegas, and send a number, not tell us which one for the dice. There's 2 dice in the game. So he sent 5, 4 equals 9. We didn't know that. And we rolled tons more 9s than chance during that workshop. And we got back about, I analyzed, I think 87% or so were 5, 4 equals 9. And the possibility of 6, 3 equals 9 should be 50-50 with it. So just one person thinking from Antarctica caused that. We've had studies of prayer to people with heart attack in the hospital. And thy will be done prayer works better than specifically trying to heal the heart attack. And both groups work better than somebody who hasn't had prayer in terms of days in the hospital, infection rates, mortality rates, those kinds of measures of healing.
That's incredible. So what about communicating telepathically? Can we do that?
Oh, I think so too. You know, there are good studies done. One where they take 10 friends of yours and they get the numbers, the scientists, and then they tell that friend when to randomly call you by computer. So the scientist doesn't even know when that call will be. And you predict who's on the phone, and people are very good at that. They've done studies and repeated them with dogs, where in England, say, dog's in the house and the woman is 50 miles away in London. As soon as she turns to come home, the dog goes to the door. They've repeated that one. They've done a lot of what's called Gansfield experiments. And there's a book called Conscious Universe by Dean Radin, talks about many of these psychic skills. And in Gansfield, you're in one room, I'm in another, and I see a photo that the computer picks up, and I begin to think of it, and you have to draw it. And again, results well above chance on that. So it looks like we are quite telepathically connected. I think through maybe a universal unconscious or a thought field. Some people better than others in terms of being open and how much closeness they feel. My mom always knew when I was doing something wrong in college or something. She would call and say, Joe.
Me too.
You know, some people are like
it's crazy.
that.
Yeah. That's amazing.
But again, if you're relaxed, open-hearted, in positive energy, this is much more likely to happen for you than if you're constricted by fear and you're all wrapped up in watching the news and you're all left-brained, you know, worried about the past and the future. This stuff happens. It's very natural to us. We probably did better when we were in a rural or natural society. The Chinese have brought kids in and taught them anything was possible, and they do amazing things. But one thing they found is the kids from rural areas tend to do better than kids from cities because they're more open.
Okay. Very, very interesting. You know, Dr. Gallenberger, we could probably talk to you all day. There's so many amazing things. But can you just let us know what projects you're working on? Can you also give us some more information about the Liquid Lux CD that you were speaking about?
Sure. My website, you can go one of two ways. One is Sync, S-Y-N-C, and then the word creation, C-R-E-A-T-I-O-N, so 2 C's in the middle, .com, and it'll go to all the workshops and CDs and things there. Another way to get there that's easier to remember sometimes is I wrote a book called Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health. And so and it talks about the Vegas experience and some of these other workshops. So if you go to Inner Vegas, INNERVEGAS.com, it'll also take you to that same website. And there you'll see under products Liquid Luck, designed to have you create a day of good fortune after you've listened to the CD, a CD called Manifesting with HemiSync, to have a visualization period of what you want to create. One called Partners to raise the energy in all your relationships. New one coming out in a few weeks called Abundance Waterfall. And the Sync Creation Home Study and Inner Vegas workshops. So those are the main ways, but the site is quite extensive. So there's a lot of PK tips, psychokinesis tips, tips to do energy healing, tips to do manifesting. If you look under the previous article tabs, you'll see lots of that. Okay. So it's designed to be helpful even if you're not going to order anything. Because I just love doing this around the world and hearing good results. So
absolutely.
Well, you have like a vast knowledge. It's just amazing. We're sitting over here and we're like, wow, we want more. But for all the listeners, we're going to put all the information on how you can get to Dr. Gallenberger's information and all his projects and his website. We're going to put that down in the information box of the video. And Dr. Gallenberger, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing all your knowledge.
You're welcome, Erica. It was a pleasure to talk with you and Justin.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This is Justin and Erica from YouAreCreators, and we support your dreams.